Welcome to another episode of Activados. Today we are so honored to have Sister Abigail Arreaza with us. Thank you for joining us this beautiful day. So we're just going to begin really simple. We're just going to talk about your testimony. So who is Abigail Arreaza? You can talk to us about just who you are and just let the people know, because we see you singing, we see you in ministries, but we want to get to know who is Sister Abigail Arreaza.
Hello, everyone. First of all, it's an honor to have. Well, it's an honor. Wait, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm getting so anxious. I can feel it in my body. I was about to say it.
How the roles have turned. All right, so
it's an honor to be here. It's an honor that you guys asked me to be here. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm getting super anxious. I can feel it. But yes, I am Abigail Arreaza. A lot of people might know me as Pastor Randy's daughter. I am the oldest of four. I'm the oldest of four. I just turned 18, and I'm gonna be class of 23. So I'm so excited to finally be getting out of high school. So yes,
that's super exciting. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So how do you feel exiting high school now?
I'm not gonna lie, the beginning of this month, I guess it's been actually hitting me, because I'm someone that I've always said I've never wanted to be 18. I don't want to be an adult.
Oh no.
So I've been having extreme emotional breakdowns, but I can feel finally now, I guess, since I know where my path is going, and I finally feel comfortable with what I am going to be doing in my future. I finally feel a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more comfortable about everything. So yes.
Good. And where do you see your path going?
Well, I want to be a teacher, an elementary teacher.
Okay.
So I'm excited, and yes.
So you see yourself working in elementary school. Do you know what grade you would want to work in?
Yes, so I would want to work in 1st to 3rd grade.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it something that drew you to becoming a teacher?
Yes, I think it's for me, it's always been the development of kids. This is where this is a time where they're growing, where they're learning, and I just love that, knowing that I can help them grow into be the people that they're going to be, or into young adults that they could be. I know for a fact, me, I still remember my kindergarten teacher. I still remember my 1st grade teachers. I remember how sweet they were to me and how comfortable they made me feel every day. So I just want to be that to somebody else. I want to be that to other kids. And then I guess the love in the ministry that I also have and I see in our kids department at church is just so beautiful. And I just love to I catch myself praying for my future students, and I don't know, I just love that. I can honestly say I finally found my calling that God has given me when it comes to what my career path is going to be. So yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think being a teacher, a lot of people might say that it's a job. Not that we need praise for it, but it's not seen as something important. But I'm also a teacher, so I can relate to that. I think just being a teacher helps to be that light inside of a school that, some kid might need to have a teacher that's Pentecostal and that prays for them without them knowing. So now that you're stepping into that path, what are some things that you have envisioned for yourself? Any goals that you have?
Well, as in
for
school?
For your schooling, for teaching, anything that you would want to, I guess, push you closer into aligning your degree, aligning your job with the will of God.
Okay, well, I've always said that. I've always wanted what I study for to be connected to my church so that I can help it. For the longest, I said I wanted to go into business administration because, believe it or not, our church is basically run as a business. So that's what I really wanted to. But then right now we're doing discipleships on Mondays, and we're having classes, and we're separating classes, and we're having the whole teacher aspect and the whole running a school aspect. That's actually being a main what can I say, a main topic or a main source in our church right now that is winning a lot of souls. And just knowing that my dad has an envision for that. He has a calling that's for him, that he wants to open a Pentecostal apostolic church. A Pentecostal apostolic school in our smart community, it gave me more of like that motivation and that push to become a teacher, because I know that like if I get my bachelor's or if I continue into schooling, I can be a blessing to my church and I can be able to have that dream be fulfilled. So yes, that's my goal.
I think that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So in relations to you wanting to become a teacher, what are some things that you believe would, as a Pentecostal in a school that doesn't really know much about God, what are some things that you hope to influence in your students?
I hope that I can influence just kindness and love, because I feel like, especially with generations and generations, I feel like that's been a little bit more of like, not just a conflict, but more of like I feel like even kids don't know how to respect others, and kids don't know how to like be loving and, you know, cherish time. So I guess like I want them to know like you can be nice, you can be sweet to people without, you know, having to get your point across. And I guess just like I said in the beginning, like this is their time to grow. Like I want them to know like they can make mistakes. They're kids, you know, they have to love life, love what they have in front of them. I know some kids, they probably don't get the same love that I hope to give them at home. So I just want them to know that they're loved and they're cherished. So yes.
I think that's a beautiful thing. In relations to your testimony, how was it like growing up in a pastor's household?
Oh my goodness. I could say it's honestly been a roller coaster of emotions. I love being a pastor's kid. I love being a PK. But I could say that like there was times where like I know I can't be the only PK to say this, but we used to wish that like, oh, why did I have to be a PK? Why did my dad have to be a pastor? But it has been difficult. It was difficult. Like now, I wouldn't wish anything else. So yeah, it was difficult, but now I can honestly say that I love it and I wouldn't want anything else. And God does everything for his timing, and he does everything for a purpose.
Amen.
So yes.
Amen. When you were, through your 18 years, I know that you mentioned you had roller coasters. What were some time or moments where you felt like you were at a low, and how did you feel like you surpassed that?
I would say middle school was probably like the worst couple years of my life, just because we are Pentecostal. I am Pentecostal. I dress like a Pentecostal. Like I've always been raised with wearing skirts. I've always had long hair. And it was very hard getting extremely bullied in middle school and like getting very talked down to in middle school.
Yeah.
Hearing that, like that's another reason why I would love to be a teacher, because it's like this is a time where kids are growing, and this is a time where our emotions are being developed.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're doing something that you love, or at the time, like, I knew that I love it, but I also had such a strong, like, not hatred, but such a strong, like, dislike to it because of how bullied I was.
Yeah.
It was just it was difficult. But thank God that my parents, like, there are parents that, like, if they see that their kids are in an environment that's hurting them, they'll take them out.
Yeah.
So, like, after my middle school years, they knew that I had to change high school, because they just knew, like, my emotions, the way that I was acting, the way that, like, my relationship with God was just, like, completely just falling down. Like, they knew. They were like, I have to take you out. They took me out, and I couldn't love God anymore. Like, it's just, like I said, God has a timing for everything, and he has a purpose for everything. So, yes, yeah.
I think honestly, I agree. We I think it's more prominent. You can see it on the girls more when we're apostolic, because we wear the skirts, we have our long hair. I completely agree with that. I love watching your videos on Instagram. You're very vocal about what you like, your dressing, your hair, and I think that's such a beautiful message to our young ladies. Could you talk to us about that?
Yes, of course. I started doing that just because when I left the school, I had the hard understanding of, I thought it was crazy that there was girls from Luz del Mundo that wore straight long skirts. They dressed just like us.
Yes.
But why was I the one getting bullied? Why was I the one getting messed with? Why was I the one that was getting all of this this like negativity towards me, but these other girls weren't? Yeah. And I was like, I know I can't be the only one feeling this way. So that's when I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I have like a really strong a carga towards that kind of stuff, because it's like, I know I love what I'm doing, and I know that what I'm doing is worshiping God on my everyday life. It's not just the way that you dress, and it's not just the way that you know, present yourself, but this is a way of worship to my Lord. Like, this is a way of worship. So I remember I told my mom, I was like, I want to start posting on Instagram of like how like I live. Like, I want to tell girls like my age, because that was the thing too. Yes, there's other girls that post modest content and stuff, but they're older. They're much older. They're not in high school anymore. And if they are in high school, they're in their senior year of high school. They're like, but I want to see girls my age, like, being able to do stuff like that. And I remember she told me, she was like, okay, then why don't you do it? And I was like, I don't know. So she told me, she was like, okay, because I also didn't have social media, like, at all. I couldn't have social media. And she was like, just sit down and talk to your dad. And I was like, okay. And I spoke to him, and he was like, okay, because that's the thing. Social media can be used to bless others as well. I know some people can't say that social media is bad, but I can honestly say that social media can also be a blessing to others. So I started posting my my modest lifestyle on my social media, and it's crazy because now I'll get like DMs from people I used to go to middle school with, people that used to mess with me and used to bully me, and they'll be like, oh, I love the way that you like post the way that you live, and like I love the way and it's just like, that's crazy. Like, I just think that that's so crazy that like people that used to mess with me in middle school can honestly see that like what I'm doing is not to please others, it's to please my Lord.
That's amazing.
So, yeah,
you're making an impact in a lot of lives, and I love that you said that you wanted to be that voice for the younger generation, saying that yes, I'm young, but I'm wearing this and I'm looking like this because it's a form of worship. And I love that you said that. One thing that I do admire and I do notice is that you're not ashamed or afraid to speak out, no matter what, where you're at or where you're going through. So now that you're going to college, how do you plan to take that with you?
I plan to take it the same way that I've been taking it in high school. I know that like me personally in high school right now, when I get like those comments like, oh, she's a skirt girl, or like, like she's like, why is she so extra, like the girl with the skirts and stuff like that, like honestly at this point it's like, I mean, call me extra, I don't care. Like, like I honestly, like at this point, like I don't care. Like I love, like I keep saying, like I love modesty. I think it's so beautiful. And I would just I'm just going to continue pursuing it the way that I am right now. And I hope to like even like be an impact to others, because I feel like that's the thing too. Like there's also girls that are Pentecostal and are apostolic, but once they go to school, they're a completely different person. Like you wouldn't know that they're apostolic or Pentecostal until you see somebody else that's like kind of representing that. So it gives you like the motivation that it's like, oh, okay, well, if she can be, if she can be her, then why can't I be me?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think it's really interesting that you say that, how people in Mundo Pentecostal or any other organizations, they'll wear the clothes that, they know they're supposed to wear. And I think for us as Pentecostals, we find it very difficult to wear the long skirts or to not cut our hair. And, for us, it's just a little bit, like just a little bit makeup. It's not going to affect me. Or just like, oh, if the sleeves are just showing a little bit, like that's not too bad. But I think what you're doing is amazing. So what do you think about that whenever you hear girls talk about modesty? What's your viewpoint on that? Or what would you tell them?
I would say that think of it as a worship to God. Like I've learned that like there's different motives of worship. And worship isn't just a Sunday morning thing. Worship just isn't a youth service thing. Worship is a lifestyle. Worship is a 24/7 thing. And the way that we dress is our form of worship. The way that we protect our body is a form of worship. So I would just say, like, honestly, this is the least we can do. Like, just representing God everywhere we go. Like, I feel like everybody knows, like, you could be at HEB, you could be anywhere else, and people know, they look at you like, oh, she's apostolic, oh, she's Pentecostal. So, like, I guess, like, I don't know, just love it. I would also say read into it, study your Bible, just so that when people do come up to you and ask you stuff, like, you're not condescending about it, but you're also aware and you know what you're doing. Because I feel like that's a lot of girls from like other organizations. They're just like, oh, well, I just do it because my pastor says I have to do it. Like, find a love for it, find the reason why you want to do it, and do it for God. So yes,
I agree. I think in the way we act, because I think holiness, a lot of people have a misconception about what holiness is, and they think it's a form of just you wear the clothes, you come to church, you act the part. But I agree. I think when you say, no, I don't want to be holy because my pastor tells me I have to be holy, or because my parents force me to be holy, I want to be holy because that's the least I can do to worship and serve God. So in relation to that, what advice would you give young girls who are struggling with that?
I would say God made you in his perfect image. God made you to his perfect image. It's crazy how right now this world is treating modesty as a trend. Mm-hmm. Like, you can actually see modesty in this world now. Not completely. Yeah. But it's kind of a trend right now. Mm-hmm. But don't think of it as a trend. Think of it as a worship to God. Think of it as, this is the way that I show my love towards God. And everything will become easier. So, yes.
I agree. I honestly, looking at just the way stores are broadcasting their clothes and stuff, it's crazy because you're seeing a lot of girls wear long skirts. Yes. And that's never seen before. Yeah. I think that's really good. It's a good point. So talking about your ministry, talking about who you are, how has singing been these past years?
It's been nerve-wracking. I started singing when I was like 12 years old. Or not 12, was I 12? I was probably like 13 or 14. I started the ministry with my parents. They didn't have as many singers, and I was very timid until I would probably say like a year and a half ago, when I was asked to be part of the teens band. Mm-hmm. And that's the first time that our district started their teens band, and I was able to work aside Danny and Fabiola and some other girls, Abby. And I remember just thinking like, wow, like, I wish that like the way that I worshipped was freely, if that made any sense. Like, I wish that I didn't have the mindset like you have to sound a certain way to give a sincere worship when I sang next to them. And I can honestly say, after singing with that teens band, it has opened up the way that I worship God so much more. And I just like, I thank Brother Oscar for that opportunity that he gave not just me, but everybody in that band. So yes, it's been challenging, just because like I've had to come out of my comfort zone, because like I've always been like not shy, but like very, I don't know how I could say, like very cautious about the way that I like sing, or like I pursue myself. Like, I don't ever want to be like, oh, like they think she's all that. Yeah. Like, I've always just wanted to be like, no, like this is who I am. Like, I just want to worship the Lord with everything I had. So after that opportunity that it gave me, and I seen the way that other people worship God, just like with all their hearts, they didn't care if they messed up or they didn't care how they sounded. I was just like, wow, this is an example of what I want to be. Mm-hmm. So I just. Yes.
No, I love that. And I think the passion you have, when I hear you sing, you can see it. It's right there. In the years that you've been singing, what are some ups and some challenges that you've dealt with?
Oh, challenges. I would have to say, like, in the beginning when I did start singing, it was by myself. Like, yes, my parents sung with me like the first 3 years, but that was the same year that my parents, my dad was given the church. He became 100% the pastor at our local church in Port Arthur. So it was like, my mom sat down and they talked to me, and she was like, look, me and your dad, we have to work 100% with the church now. Yeah. We can't, want to be praying over souls and taking care over souls, but then also have to think about the music ministry. Yeah. That was the same year COVID happened.
Oh my goodness.
So everything was locked down. And it's crazy because that was the first year I became leader at the church as well, over the musicians. That happened so fast. I started singing and I became leader of the musicians in like less than a couple months. Oh wow. And my mom was like, I'm sorry, but like, you have to take responsibility over this ministry. And I was just like, oh my goodness, it's going to be hard, but God wouldn't give you something that you can't handle. Amen. So I remember just like crying most of the time because I barely knew how to play piano, and I was super shy at singing. Like I would sing so soft, and like, you know, when you have one drummer and then another girl that was like, she was barely singing as well. And I remember all during COVID, it was just us. And like, I would go home and cry because it was like, I know I can be giving you the most. And I want to be giving God like a better, you know, a better like praise and worship. But then my mom was like, it just has to come from the heart. Yeah. If it's not coming from the heart and you just keep thinking, oh, you want to be better, but you're not doing it for the Lord, then you're never going to be that. You're never going to become better. Yeah. So I would honestly say it was really challenging. But thank God, like, we've been blessed with multiple musicians or like multiple people that have came to our church that have been a big blessing to us. Like my youth leaders, they moved to our church, I would say probably 2021. So after the, well, it was still during COVID, but a little bit like when it was like, you know, towards the end of it, they finally, they moved over here from New Jersey. And my youth leader and his wife, they both sang, and the sister played the piano.
That's such a blessing.
Yes. And then like a year later, or a couple months later, our youth leader, brother Edgar, he noticed the need of a bass player. So he picked up the bass and he started learning bass. And then we got a guitarist. And then recently we were blessed with having the privilege of Brother Aquintema. He's a PK as well. He moved over here to Port Arthur because his wife is going to college over there. And he has been a big blessing to our musicians group. So now he's the leader of the musicians group. And I can just see like the way that like our musicians give the worship to God with all their hearts. They do it with sincere love. And I just like, I don't know, it's been a blessing. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, but yes, I can honestly say it's been a blessing to our church and to me as well.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful thing. I think in hindsight, you look back and you're like, man, we started from literally nothing. And you just watched how God provided year after year. And I think that's a message that a lot of our youth need to be reminded of, that right now it looks like you feel like you're surrounded by nothing, especially in ministries. Like we feel like we don't have that support. We feel like we're starting from scratch, but that's a huge testimony of if you're patient and you just wait for God's purpose and God's plan, in time it'll come. And I think another one is like, it didn't happen overnight. Yes. It took time, took a lot of time. So how was that process for you and for your ministry and the music? How did you feel through all those years, like watching, you started from nothing, and like, how did you feel in the lowest moments when, like, because I'm sure you felt like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this no more. Yeah. And how did you overcome that?
Well, I'm a really big perfectionist, like my dad. So I think that was the biggest problem, that me thinking that everything had to be perfect. But the only perfect one here is Jesus. Yes. I just had to keep reminding myself that, and my mom had to keep reminding me that. She was like, girl, relax. Like, just like take it a day at a time. Yeah. Like, take it slow. You're not going to become a pro. You're not going to become a pro pianist overnight. You're not going to become a pro singer overnight. Like, work with what you have and do it to your best capacity. Like, bring it to what y'all guys have, and like bring it to its best at what y'all guys have. And when y'all guys have that, wait, that doesn't make sense.
It's okay.
Okay. Basically, she was telling me, like, work with what you have, excel it, and make it to at least, like, oh my goodness, I'm losing words.
It's okay.
It's dyslexia. It's getting to me.
It's okay. Work with what you have.
Yes. And make it as best as you can with it. After that, then start growing slowly. Yeah. Don't start like throwing challenges at you that you know you're not gonna complete, because then you're gonna be very hard on yourself. Yeah. And you're gonna be like, bro, what's going on? Like, you know? And then it's gonna be like, you're going to bring yourself down. So you have to, like, take it a step at a time. So I could honestly say thank you to my mom and thank you to my parents, because they're very hard on me, because they'll tell me straight up. They'll be like, girl, that did not sound right. Or, Miss Ma'am, that was not in your note. Yeah. Like, you're singing like a man. No. Or, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they still do that to me a lot. But I can honestly say my parents are my biggest critics. And I love that, though. But, yes, that's it.
No, I think that's perfect. I think having parents who support you and who are honest with you about things, whether it's in the music ministry or however it is you're running it or how you sound, a lot of people can misconstrue that as, oh my gosh, they're targeting me, or oh my goodness, they hate me. But in reality, they tell you these things because they want to see you grow. They want to see you learn. And I personally feel like we need more of that in our youth. We need leaders who are honest and who are upfront of, hey, like this and this and this is happening, and we're telling you this because we want to see you grow. Yeah. So you mentioned that you're a perfectionist. How do you think that affects you in your other ministries?
Oh my goodness, it's so bad because I want it to be perfect. I want everything to be perfect, but I know, like, I can honestly say now that I feel like I'm a little bit more, not lenient, but a little bit more like, okay, like, relax. Like, not everything is going to be perfect. But, like, I am helping a lot with, like, the youth ministries and, like, with the kids ministries. Like, and I remember, like, thinking in my youth ministry, like, oh my God, I want this to be perfect. I want this event to be perfect. Yeah. And then something bad would happen, or, like, something didn't go as planned. And I'd be like, oh my God, like, I'm stressing. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But then, like, again, like, my parents telling me, like, relax, like, you're gonna be fine, like, things are not gonna go according as planned all the time. Like, you have to have room for improvement as well. So yeah,
I agree. I think we need to recognize that, like you said, God is the only perfect one here, and we bring all of what we have to the table and we say, Lord, do whatever it is you can with what I have. Yeah. You mentioned that your parents are obviously your biggest supporter and your biggest critics. What else do you feel like your parents have taught you or shown you throughout these years?
Ooh. My parents are the biggest blessing to my life. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Just because it's like, they're not just my parents, but they're my pastors. You know what I mean? Like, my dad's my pastor. I look at my mom as my pastor's wife. Like, I respect them, and we've learned to, like, separate the two, like, greatly. So, like, there's been things that my dad's had to tell me. Like, I remember the other day on my Instagrams where we do the not gonna lie stuff, and someone asked me, what are the biggest things that, like, your parents have told you that, like, you know, that have been, like, what's the word? That have been, like, have been, like, a blessing to your life. And I remember saying, my mom telling me one time when she was going through, like, the whole process of her health, and, like, I was very, like, not doubting God, but telling God, like, why? Yeah. And she was like, don't ever do that. God does everything the way he needs it to be done. Mm-hmm. This is your time to worship. Worship with your heart. That's good. Like, when things are going down is the time you're supposed to be worshiping the most. And I remember just thinking that, like, whenever I feel sad, whenever I feel down, whenever I feel discouraged, it's your time to worship. Yeah. Like, that's where you're going to find your love. And my dad telling me, he's always telling me, you have to be teachable. Wow. My dad, he's always telling me, you have to be teachable. You have to have a servant's heart. Mm-hmm. God's never going to give you blessings over blessings if you don't have a servant's heart. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how to serve his people. You have to learn how to serve his church, work in his church. And I would just say, like, they've been a blessing, because they tell me straight up as parents too, like, girl, you didn't sound right. Yeah. Or, like, you know what I mean? But then my dad would tell me, like, you know, there's a little bit of improving. Like, you know, you're doing a little better, but also you could do better. Yeah. So I would say they've been a blessing to my life 100%. So, yes.
Wow, that's amazing. One thing that I've heard from PKs is the relationship they have with their parents, because they have to differentiate, that's my mom and dad, and then that's my pastor and my pastor's wife. Yeah. How do you feel that you've learned to differentiate, or what are some things that helped you to learn how to separate the two roles?
Some things that have helped me to learn is, like, just looking at them as your pastor and your pastor's wife. Like, there'll be times where we're sitting down in a group of holiness and they're speaking to us, and I have to sit down and look at them as our pastors, as our pastor's wife. When I'm at church, I don't direct my parents as my parents. I'll say, pastor said we have to do this. La hermana Damaris said, if we can help her do this. Like, it's never been, oh, my dad said or my mom said, because I feel like it also gives a little room of other people to say. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, and I've loved that my church has noticed that too. Like they'll know like difference between pastor and dad. Out of church, it's dad. In church, pastor. All times. If not, then that's where I think conflict comes in, because we don't know how to separate the two. So yes,
I think that's a really good point, to know that at church there needs to be that boundary and that respect of they're my parents, yes, but they're also my pastors, and they have a job to fulfill here, and people are watching. I know that as a PK, it might feel overwhelming to know that everyone has their eyes on you. Yes. And so like going into church and saying, okay, like I have to be careful with what I say and how I act, and need to refer to them as my pastors. And then coming home, and I love that your parents have that open relationship where at home we're your pastors, yes, but we're also your parents, and you come and you talk to us. You mentioned that your mom was going through a sickness. How did you feel through that, and what are some things that helped you move past it?
I'm someone that, like, when she was sick, she didn't tell no one. She literally, like, she didn't tell no one at all. The day we found out she was actually, like, sick was the day that my dad told us that she literally died on the table. And then, like, you know, so for me, it's like, I've also been, like, someone that, like, I don't take bad news, like, then and there. Like, I'm someone that, like, I'll process it, and it won't hit me till, like, the next day. I remember being at work. I was working at Chick-fil-A at the moment, and the next morning just, like, having, like, a full-on breakdown. And I was like, I know that did not just happen yesterday. And, like, knowing that, like, my mom was, like, in the hospital, like, severely, like, broken down with her health. And just knowing that, like, you know, like, God was gracious. God gave her many, many more years of life, hopefully. And it's been a whole year and a half since. So knowing, like, the situation that my mom was going through and her not telling us, I know it must have been hard on her as well. Because, like, we've always said our best friends are us. Like, it's always going to be us. We're going to be the only ones that are going to understand her. PK to PK, she was a PK as well. She's going to understand what we're going through. But then she's also her mom. My sisters are also my best friends. So knowing that she couldn't tell us, I know must have hurt her as well. And it must have been hard on her. And it was hard on all of us for a while. But I remember, like, just thinking back to what she said. This is your time to worship. This is your time to pray. This is your time to meditate in the Word of God. So it was difficult. But I would say glory to God, because everything happens for His glory. And my mom's here, so yeah,
I know. I can't imagine how you must have felt throughout that time, and just hearing those words. Like, I know that you see your mom and she looks so delicate and so sick, because, you know, as daughters, we look at our mom and they're this, you know, mighty warrior, and then to see them sick and them tell you, I know how you see me here, but I need you to worship God no matter what. That's a hard pill to take. Do you think that it was at that moment that really tested your relationship with God?
I would say yes, probably 100%, just because I've seen that happen at my church, or, like, I've seen that happen to other families where it's like they'll have a sick family member that's, like, severely sick, and instead of getting closer to God, they, you know, start to distance themselves from God. And after my mom telling me that, like, this is your time to worship, I've never felt that more. Like, I've never believed that more. This is your time to worship. This is not your time to be distancing your life with Christ. Like, this is not your time. Like, it's never your time. It's never going to be your time to distance your way from God. But when problems and tribulations are happening, like, that's when you and God got to be extra, like, best friends. Like, you got to be extra close to God. Because this is when God is going to give you, you know, this is when God's going to give you that extra strength. This is when God's going to give you that extra word of advice. So, yeah, I would say it was, I don't know, I would have to say it was 50-50. Because, yes, I did doubt, or not doubt, but I did say, like, God, why my mom? But at the same time, it was like, it's okay. Everything happens for a reason. You know, like, I have to believe that. I have to have faith in my Lord. I have to, you know, give all my worries to Christ. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, because I know one thing my mom has always told me also is whatever it is that you're going through right now, we might not understand it, but in the future you might meet somebody and they are probably going to go through the same thing that we've gone through, and you can give them that testimony. So all the things that you've learned these past 18 years, you're graduating, what is one main thing that you feel like God has constantly taught you and never let you forget?
His love. Honestly, it's just his love. Like, the way that, like, you can be falling down a ladder and he'll pick you up and he'll tell you, like, I love you, it's okay, don't worry about it. Like, that's beautiful to me. Like, nobody else will tell you they love you at a time of your oh my god, I just got distracted. At a time of, like, your worries, no one's gonna tell you that. Like, no one's gonna tell you at a time that you're distancing away from a friendship or, like, away from a certain amount of people, that they love you, if that makes any sense. Well, me personally, like, I remember, like, becoming very, like, I'm not gonna say depressed, because I wasn't depressed. Like, that's a really big word. But a moment in time where I felt very down and I felt very alone. And, like, I felt like nobody was coming up to me. Nobody was telling me, like, hey, like, I'm here to, like, you know. I feel like the only person that was there for me was God. And my parents, obviously. But there's a difference between you hearing it from your parents and you hearing it from friends. So I remember just thinking, it's okay. Like, I have to remember God's going to be my number one friend. He's going to be my number one supporter. So, yes.
I love that. I think remembering that God loves you, remembering that through the ups and the downs, through the doubt, through the frustration, through the anger, that he's there. And I agree. I think we will never be able to understand or fathom how great is his love and why he even, you know, chose to love us. But I think that's such a beautiful lesson to continuously learn. So thank you so much, sister, for talking to us and for sharing your testimony.
Thank you so much.
God bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. Like the video, comment. Tell us also maybe any subjects you want us to talk about or anyone you want to see here on Activados. Also follow us on Instagram. We really appreciate you. God bless.